I'm going to show you how to build a ChatGPT-powered micro-SaaS that dominates a single zip code. Bear with me. Forget trying to build the next global AI startup. Someone else is already out there doing that. You don't have the kind of time in your day to do that. The real money for beginners is building something tiny, a small ChatGPT-powered web app using OpenAI's API, something that solves a problem for exactly one zip code. It's something like a snowplow routing bot for a small town in Maine. Most AI entrepreneurs are building for the wrong person. They're chasing millions of potential customers that they'll probably never convert. They're spending marketing money like water on acquiring someone 3 states away and burning out because scaling demands everything they have. But there's a counterintuitive move that almost nobody is making. And it's working at conversion rates that would make typical SaaS founders kind of open their eyes in shock or maybe even weep. You're about to learn how to deliberately shrink your accessible market to almost nothing and somehow end up with customers who actually are willing to pay you. This isn't about finding a niche. This isn't about finding your neighborhood. What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my dark horse friends and family? 3 months ago, a 28-year-old out there in Portland, Oregon, noticed something. Every single dental practice within a 6-block radius of his apartment was using some paper appointment book, not a digital system, not even Google Calendar. They were actually using paper. He looked up the zip code 97214. And then he ran the numbers. 16 dental offices, all within walking distance of him, all struggling with the same problem. Patients calling to reschedule, getting a voicemail, rescheduling anyway, and showing up when they weren't actually booked. One office manager told him they lost $8,000 a month to no-shows. Yeah. So what did he do? He built an AI tool in 72 hours using OpenAI's API and Twilio for SMS. Not a whole marketplace, not a platform for all dentists everywhere. Instead of competing with Calendly or Acuity or Jane app at scale, he built a tool for those specific 16 offices that did one thing. When a patient called to reschedule, an AI voice agent answered the phone, confirmed the new time against the actual calendar, and then sent an SMS reminder 3 days later. The cost to build it? $147 in API calls and, of course, his time. And here's the thing. You don't need to be a developer to get started. Tools like Bubble, no-code app API integrations, and basic automation stacks mean you can assemble something like this without writing a single line of traditional code. The price he charged? $800 a month per office. Yeah, do the math. Every single office he approached said yes, all 16 of them. Within 4 weeks, he had $12,800 in MRR, monthly recurring revenue, from a single zip code with zero marketing spend. This is the hyperlocal micro-SaaS move, and it works because you're solving a problem that exists at a density that no software company out there with real overhead can really afford to chase, right? When Acuity Scheduling or Calendly have millions of customers, they optimize for the average of all those customers. When you optimize for the 97214 zip code, you optimize for their specific perfection. The mechanism is simple, but it's a little strange. Most SaaS companies think about unit economics backward. They assume 1,000 potential customers, 2% conversion rate means 20 customers acquired. But they spend $5,000 in marketing to achieve that 2%. What if they flipped it? What if you found 50 potential customers within walking distance and achieved a 90% conversion rate with zero marketing spend? Yeah, here's where most people get stuck. They think, quote unquote, local means less valuable. It means really the opposite, if you ask me. When you're the only person in zip code 97214 selling appointment setting AI to real estate agents, you don't have any competition. You have a monopoly, and monopolies, even tiny ones, have pricing power. Let's take a roofing supply angle. A woman in Austin identified a 5-mile radius where roofing contractors were bidding jobs manually. They'd go out, measure roof slopes with photos, use spreadsheets, losing bids because calculations alone took 48 hours. So she built an AI tool, again, mostly through no-code integrations with the OpenAI API. Now, this AI tool ingested the photo, calculated material needs, and generated a bid, wait for it, in 90 seconds. She didn't sell it nationally. She didn't build for an entire marketplace. She knocked on the doors of 23 roofing companies and said, I'll cut your bid time by 95%. That's an extra $30,000 in annual revenue per company because you'll close more jobs faster. Think about that. If I told you as a roofer I could get you $30,000 more in annual revenue, what, you going to listen? Well, of course you are. 18 of them paid her $1,200 a month. Yeah, no sales funnel, no webinar, no content marketing. She solved a very specific problem at a specific density, and the unit economics were too obvious to ignore. This is what people in vertical SaaS call the bottoms up wedge. You enter through one tight geography, one profession, and you own it completely, 100% completely, before you ever think of expanding. And I think this is where most AI entrepreneurs miss the psychological layer. When you're selling to someone who's content with their current system, they have to be convinced to switch over to yours. But when you're walking into a local business and saying, I know exactly what you're doing because I've watched you do it, much of that resistance just collapses. You're not a stranger trying to convince them that they have a problem. You're pointing at something they already feel that they have a problem with every single day. The AI component is really secondary if you think about it. The real shift is geographic concentration of said pain. But here, let's be honest, here's where it really gets dangerous. Once you nail one zip code, you're probably going to want to scale it, expand to the next neighborhood, then build templates, maybe even hire some salespeople. And suddenly you've transformed your micro-SaaS into a real business with real overhead, and you've lost the edge that made it work in the first place. The closest you get to real scaling in the hyperlocal model is vertical expansion. So instead of selling to all the roofing contractors in Austin, you'll sell the exact same tool to all the plumbing contractors in Austin, right? Same 5-mile radius, but you've just shifted to a different niche. There's a different pain point, but the same customer density. So maybe you're not selling the exact same tool, but you're taking the same tool and applying it to a different pain point. This is the vertical SaaS playbook applied at the smallest scale possible. And let me be honest here. It's devastatingly effective. One founder out in Chicago built 4 separate micro SaaS products over the course of 18 months. Each one targeted a very specific single profession within a walkable geography. A scheduling tool for veterinary clinics, a compliance tracker for HVAC contractors, an inventory system for independent pharmacies, and an equipment maintenance log for small manufacturing shops. Completely different tools, completely different code bases, but the same zip code focus. Total annual revenue, $340,000 a year. Total team size, him and, one part-time contractor for some customer support. That's it. The economics get wild when you understand what's actually happening. You're not competing on features. You're competing on indispensability within a bounded geography. Your customer has 3 choices. 1, they keep doing it the old way, which they probably hate. 2, they buy an enterprise solution for $5,000 a month that they'll never fully use. There's so many WYSIWYGs and bells and whistles. They only need 2 of them. Or 3, pay you $800 a month for something built specifically for them. That's not even a choice. That's a given. Now, the part that no one talks about, the part that really creates the trap, is customer concentration risk. All 16 of your dental office customers live in one zip code. They talk to each other. Word is going to travel. One bad update, 1 month of downtime, one feature that breaks their workflow, and you lose not one customer. You lose the reputation of the entire territory. That's $12,800 a month in MRR that can evaporate in 72 hours if you lose that trust. The roofing contractor person unfortunately learned this the hard way. In month 7, she pushed an update that changed how the AI calculated material waste. It was objectively more accurate. It accounted for the local trim standards that the algorithm didn't know before. But it broke 3 large bids because the contractors weren't used to the new output format. 2 of them just stopped paying. And word spread. Within 2 weeks, she lost 5 customers. She was back down to 13. She spent 3 weeks rebuilding, but the lesson, it stuck. In a hyper-local market, you can't iterate fast. You iterate carefully. You run changes by the customers first. You move at the speed of trust, not the speed of code. Okay? This is the false floor that no one wants to warn you about. The thing that makes hyper-local micro-SaaS work is the same thing that makes it fragile. You've eliminated competition by eliminating your market size, but you've also eliminated your margin for error. 1 bad quarter, 1 customer churn, and you're suddenly looking at a 30% revenue drop instead of a 3% drop. You're dependent on a market size so small that word of mouth is everything, and you really don't have a safety net. So what's the real move, Tracy? Well, the real move is to acknowledge that hyperlocal micro SaaS is a 12 to 24 month play. You build it. You hit 15 to 25 customers in a single zip code. You reach 10,000 to 30,000 a month in MRR, monthly recurring revenue. Then you do one of three things. You get acquired. There are actually local private equity companies or regional software companies looking for plug and play virtual SaaS tools that already have customers and proven MRR. You could sell it to someone who can maintain it, or you could expand vertically to adjacent professions in the same geography, knowing that the economics only work if you stay local. What you don't do is hire a sales team and try to scale nationally. The moment you do that, you've destroyed the mechanic that made it work in the first place. You're back to competing on features, not on geographic indispensability. You're back to a 2% conversion rate and $5,000 customer acquisition costs. The counterintuitive truth is that the way to build profitable AI business is not to dream bigger. It's to zoom in, from a macro to a micro. It's to pick a zip code that you know, a business type that you understand, and a pain point that you've watched happening in the real world. And then you build something with no-code tools using OpenAI's API or whatever stack you're comfortable with, so specifically calibrated for that world that it becomes impossible for them to say no. That is why the next wave of AI businesses, I don't think they'll look like ChatGPT or Perplexity. They'll look like that 28-year-old in Portland with $12,800 a month in MRR and 0 employees. They'll be invisible because they're so hyper-local, and they'll be more profitable per dollar of code than anything that's trying to be everything to everyone. The question you're probably sitting with right now isn't whether hyper-local micro-SaaS works, because it clearly does. The question is whether you are willing to zoom in instead of zoom out. Your neighborhood has unsolved problems. They're just too small for anyone else to even give a damn about them. Okay. So now look, if everything I just walked you through, the zip code play, the vertical stacking, and the trust speed lesson that cost a woman 5 customers in 2 weeks, none of that is theory. That's just the kind of stuff that gets buried in a thread somewhere else out there on the interwebs, and it's forgotten by Tuesday. That's exactly why I built the AI Escape Plan newsletter. It's not an inbox full of AI hype. It's your weekly roadmap, practical, tactical AI-powered strategies to start, grow, and streamline your side hustle that actually respects your family time instead of just stealing from it all the time. If you're the kind of entrepreneur and parent who wants to make more money and have more freedom without missing bedtime stories, this, I think, is your front door. Go over to Dark Horse Insider or just check out the link down in the description below so that you can start digging or so that we can start digging together. Okay, so all that said, here's the Whisker Wisdom I want you to walk away with from today's episode. The smaller your world, the bigger your leverage. Everyone out there is trying to build for a planet of strangers. You don't need a planet. You need a zip code. Actually, you could use a subset of a zip code. So here's your action. And I mean today, not someday. Open a map of your neighborhood, your own 5-mile radius. Heck, you can go 7 to 9 miles, but start small. Write down 3 businesses that you drive past every single week that are still running on paper, old spreadsheets, or some sort of duct tape system. I don't want you to create a business plan or a pitch deck. I want you to write down 3 names. Perhaps it's folks that you use repeatedly. Then, and this is step 2, go find the knob. Call one of them. Walk in during a slow hour. Ask the office manager or the owner one simple question. What is the most annoying, repetitive part of your day? The answer they give you is the knob to that doorway. It's the exact friction point that turns strangers into paying customers. The same way paper appointment books turned into $12,800 a month in Portland, Oregon. That list and that conversation is your front door and the knob to open it. You don't have to walk through it today, but you can't dig for gold if you never even find the door to the mine. And you can't find the door if you never ask where the knob is. All right, so let's bring this home. You now know that the real money in AI isn't in chasing the whole world. It's in owning one zip code so completely that no one else can compete with you. You know the mechanics of it. You pick one tight geography, you solve one obvious pain, and you charge what it's worth. And let the word of mouth do the marketing that budgets alone will never be able to compete with. And don't forget, the trap in here too. Move carefully, protect trust, and don't scale it into the ground trying to turn around and be everything to everyone. If this shifted something in you, share it with another entrepreneur. You know who's still chasing big when close is where the real money might be hiding. And do me a favor, would you? Drop me a comment. Tell me your zip code play. Tell me the 3 names on your list and that pain knob that you found. Trust me, I read every single one of these. Who knows? Might be able to help you out. In the meantime, think successfully and take action.